Protesters are demanding the government defend religious minorities in Indonesia more seriously. Tolerance and religious freedom under attack in Indonesia in an increasingly brutal way. People killing others horrifically in name of religion. These protesters are demanding the government to immediately stop the incitement of hatred. The Indonesian government has announced it will review the law that bans Ahmadiyya, but it has refrained from making clear how it plans to protect its followers. Step Fasten, Al Jazeera, Jakarta.
A general strike in Bangladesh is paralyzing much of the country. Security forces there have been put on high alert. Our correspondent Nicholas Hack is in the capital, Dhaka.
10,000 police officers have been deployed across the country as the opposition party, the Bangladesh National Party, called for a general strike. And right now, they're shouting hartal, hartal, which means general strike. They want a total shutdown of the country, and this is following a night of riots. 10 buses have been burnt down, and the bomb was detonated inside Dhaka University, injuring 2 people. The opposition party are said to be unhappy about the rising food prices as well as the stock market prices falling. Now, later on today, share market brokers are said to join the protests, and the situation here is increasingly tense.
Emergency warnings have been issued for areas of Western Australia as bushfires continue to spread. Dozens of homes have already burnt down and more houses are under threat as the blaze engulfs the outskirts of Perth. Andrew Thomas reports from Sydney.
After widespread floods and a tropical cyclone, the latest natural disaster to hit Australia, bushfires. Southeast of the West Australian capital Perth, a spark from industrial equipment lit bone-dry grass. A second fire developing to the north of the city.
And whilst Victoria battles floodwaters, over in the west, people are battling bushfires. And we've seen the loss of homes. People who have been through the devastation of knowing that all of their possessions are gone, many of them not able to take things with them that are precious to them and which are now lost.
Gusty winds fanned the flames, houses in their path destroyed, and residents urged to abandon property.
All of a sudden the police just came along and said, please move along now, like the fire has jumped with the wind and everyone had to leave.
During daylight, the fire is being fought from the air, as well as from land. But it's been overnight, when helicopters can't fly, that the flames have been at their most destructive.
It's horrendous conditions. We knew it was going to be difficult to control these sort of fires overnight. We don't have the aerial support, but the ground crews get in there and do their best to protect properties and hold it.
While winds remain strong, the flames have the upper hand, homeowners doing what they can to stop their progress. These fires come 2 years to the day after Black Saturday, the worst bushfires in Australian history that killed over 150 people. So far, property the main victim this time around. Andrew Thomas, Al Jazeera, Sydney.
The online company AOL is buying news website The Huffington Post for $315 million. It will be the company's largest acquisition since it separated from Time Warner in 2009. Huffington Post co-founder Arianna Huffington will take control of all of AOL's editorial content. The news website began as a liberal blog in 2005 and now draws 25 million visitors a month. Al Jazeera's John Terrett explains what AOL is hoping to gain from the deal.
AOL itself had a very, very hard time after its divorce from Time Warner. Do you remember in the early part of the new century, Time Warner was taken over by AOL, the new company taking over this old media behemoth, and everybody was amazed and they couldn't believe it. Well, it just didn't work out. And since that time, certainly last year, AOL has lost a lot of advertising, and revenue from dial-up has been falling sharply, of course, around the world, and they're giving away membership to their website now. But what AOL thinks is that all is not lost, because now it's taking over Huffington Post. It's already got control of MapQuest and Patch.com, which is a series of uber local news sites around the United States. And it hopes that by owning these companies, it will be able to attract the kind of people that like breaking news to not only these websites, but crucially to the AOL site itself. And of course, that's all about attracting more advertising. That's how they make their money really going forward. Foley?
John Tarrant in DC there. We'll have more news for you at the top of the hour at 15G. Of course, you can log on to our website in the meantime, aljazeera.net/English. Right now, it's Egypt's burning. Stay with us.
January 2011. History unfolding.
And now things are getting worse by the moment.
This film tells the story of 5 days when the people of Egypt broke through a barrier of fear they had known for a generation and rose in revolt against their president.
Police are knocking on our door. The police is on their way up to our office. I will stay on the air if I can until the police come. We're going to keep these images for you guys live until we are actually forced off the air, either by the police or if our signal is somehow interrupted.
Small networks of activists were gearing up for mass action. They'd been agitating against President Mubarak's autocratic rule for years. But they never had attracted mass support until another Arab country rose up against its tyrant.
The protests haven't kicked off just yet. They're expected to start in the coming couple of hours. This is going to be a real test whether online activism in Egypt can translate into real action. Anger has been on the rise in Egypt for the past couple of years, but we have seen similar calls fizzle out. The main difference now is that these calls are coming after what happened in Tunisia, which seems to have not only inspired activists, but actually ordinary Egyptians, a dozen of whom we have seen set themselves on fire in copycat self-immolation similar to the one that had sparked the uprising in Tunisia.
Their demands simple: political freedoms, an end to state corruption, and a better quality of life for the impoverished population.
Anger had been brewing in Egypt for years now. The last 2 years, we witnessed several strikes in the country, rising unemployment, a sectarian tension was on the rise.
Well, I think anyone who's lived or spent time in Egypt would say there were plenty of signs that suggested that people in Egypt were growing increasingly frustrated. But I don't think anyone could have genuinely predicted that thousands of Egyptians would defy and challenge the government and its various security apparatuses.
President Mubarak and his National Democratic Party are apparently as secure in power as ever on the eve of the planned demonstrations.
What happened that day was that tens of thousands of people, tens of thousands of Egyptians, different parts of the country took to the streets. Not stationary protests as we were used to seeing here in Egypt. They were actually marching from one neighborhood to another at the heart of Cairo.
Are we expecting to see trouble?
It's difficult to judge at this early stage.
They started marching onto different parts of the capital, the strategic buildings perhaps that symbolized their plight or their agony, the ruling National Party headquarters, the state television, the foreign ministry.
The ruling party is the symbol of that as far as protesters are concerned and activists are concerned, which is why they're trying to stage this protest now in front of the ruling party.
Just listen to the chants roaring in downtown Cairo, the hundreds of people walking to the streets. It's unprecedented for people to march to the streets this way as an act of protest without security trying to prevent them.
The people we've seen taken to the streets today are not the 50, 60 activists that we've been seeing protesting in Egypt for the past 5-6 years. These were normal Egyptians.
Thousands marched peacefully in the morning. Their ultimate goal, to reach the city's heart, Tahrir Square. But then scuffles break out with riot police. They attempt to divide and conquer.
Indeed, Darren, this news just coming in. In fact, I'm just getting a chance to read the statement that's been issued now by the Interior Ministry. The first official reaction since the morning, blaming the outlawed Muslim Brotherhood group.
The government, quick to seize the political capital, accused their longtime enemy of inciting unrest.
The numbers estimates were around 20.